Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's show. It is May 22nd, 2025. I am Delbridge. This is your status chat. Now, earlier this week, I was thinking, when did I start these things, and why did I start these things? Well, we had just gotten slammed with the virus that shall be not named because we don't want to make YouTube mad. It was out. People were freaking out, and there was just a lot of fear in the air. And I get that. If you had no fear at all, you would do a lot of stupid stuff. And if you got too much fear, it'll hold you back. It's just like anything else, right? It's just we were just going through a terrible time, and you remember that. So I thought, well, let's tell people, we're going to come through this. We are still selling houses, showing houses. They never wanted to shut that bit of the economy down, but for some reason, you couldn't get a haircut, but you could go eat dinner, and people could work 8 hours at a grocery store or other places. For me, I struggle with it real quick, and as soon as I started noticing the patterns of who was doing what, when, and where, I got a little suspicious. So let's roll our little bit that we got to do to keep everybody happy, and we'll come back on the other side. If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Well, so it's sort of, in a lot of ways, it's a little bit of an anniversary, although I can't remember exactly when I started. I could go back and pull it. It's not significant. We're now having some changes. So let's call it close to 4 years later. We're into 2025 now. And what I find extraordinarily frustrating, because I'm like most people, I don't enjoy politics. I mean, it's sort of like there's certain medical procedures you got to get. You don't like them, but if you don't get them, I mean, what are you supposed to do? You can't ignore things. So I look at people, what I call the people ticks, is how does the politics affect the economy, which then affects the people? How does that then translate to us as individuals? Well, the national economy drives the state economy drives the county, and it's just trickled down. Good or bad, right or left, red or blue, doesn't make any difference. If you're not paying attention, you're messing up. But there are so many people that are so invested in one side or the other, I don't think they can think rationally, and I hope that we're not one of those. So let's look at some actual data that came in. I think this was May 22nd. This came in today. This is from the National Association of Realtors. Existing home sales edged lower in April. Well, let's see if that's true for where we live before we get out of here today. May 22nd, 2025, media contact Troy Green. You can share this if I punch that little button. Existing home sales slid 0.5% in April to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 4 million. Sales retreated 2% from 1 year ago. The median existing home sales price rose. I point that out because there's a cost to waiting. It's not always about what the rates are. There's a waiting cost. April of 2024 to 414,000. That's 414,000. I can remember when I bought a house for 185. I think I bought one for 85 way back when I was a young whippersnapper. The all-time high for the month of April and the 22nd consecutive month of year-over-year price increase. And that's part of the... I don't want to sound like one of these guys that's once a day sending out another blasted Facebook reel telling you something. Well, the rate went up today, the rate went down today, the stocks went up a little high today. It's you can get lost in the minutia of that. I just want to try to to point out some stuff that I noticed and let you make your own decision, because this is your business, your life, you're in charge. The inventory of unsold existing homes bounced 9% from the previous month to 1.45 million at the end of April, the equivalent of 4.4 month supply, the current month sales pace. Well, all right, so what does that tell us? Well, we're not at 6 months yet, so we're still more of a seller's market than a buyer's market, if I remember my trip points right. It is easing up a little bit. We're getting rid of some of the crazy, but we haven't really lost ground as far as I can tell, which is going to get us into our last bit. But right now, let's go look at our leading economic indicators from the conference board right here that we have this. Let me click down here so it'll go away. This is the U.S. leading economic indicators. It is annoying with these things popping up. We're seeing more green right now than we were when I first brought all this stuff up to do the research. The global LEI is down by 0.4%. We're up. I don't know if that's Hong Kong, whatever that is, 1.2%. India, Japan, Mexico's down, South Korea. You can see what you want to see. This is a ticker, but that's really not significant since it's a running time thing. Conference board, leading economic indicator, LEI, for the U.S. plunged. Look, they're just being so positive for us. Plunged in April. Did it speed up? Did it plunge in March? Let's see what's going on. So we're going to skip this top part that tells you what it's about. This was updated Monday when we released for April. This is May. The conference board, we're starting right here. We're not going to do too much of this, I promise you. The conference board leading economic index for the U.S. fell sharply by 1%. 1% is sharply in April 2025 to 99.4. That is where 2016 was the 100 was the baseline, after declining 0.8 of a point in March. Revised downwards from -7 originally reported. The LEI declined by 2% in the 6-month period ending April. Now here's the part. The same rate of decline as over the previous 6 months from April to October of 2024. Now, why do I bring that out? Because regardless of whether you're a red person or a blue person or very purple like you know, royalty is purple. That's the color of royalty. I like to kind of be in that middle ground somewhere. But you see, it happened before we had our change in administration. It was going down. It went down, continued to go down. So it's not like the apple cart has been upset by anything we've got going on. Let's go see how far back we can trace this. And they have a nice little graph here. And I like graphs because that's the way my mind works. My mind works in graphs. And so here we have it. We're looking at the blue line, the Conference Board Leading Economic Index. The indicators, they're a composite of the indicators. And look, when have we been coming down? It was at 120. Right after COVID, all of that fear of missing out drove us way fast, way high, because if we're kind of looking at kind of a slope like that, it got it way abnormally high, and now it's kind of coming down a little bit. See, this is a plunge. This is what you're talking about, a plunge. It doesn't look so much like a plunge to me. This would be more of a plunge in a recession. And we see that we went into recession as it fell. That's the purpose of keeping up with these leading economic indicators. We fell here, but how late was it? Almost a year. It started back here. It doesn't give me a hover date, but we're looking at 2000 to into 2001 before we actually hit recession. Well, we've been falling since we peaked at about the summer of 2021. And if you remember, before we had a change in colors from blue to red, everything was fine. The main news media and people, Facebook, everybody would tell you everything is fine. Pay no attention to any of those economic indicators. Claudia Salm said her rule about unemployment was correct 100% of the time, but it was different this time, and we still haven't seen a recession. We're probably already in one. They just haven't put the gray mark on the graph. But we've gotten by this far. We'll get by again because we're us, and we are built of sterner stuff. Well, let's look at this thing I got going on right here. I want to remind everyone that this is my website, and I got some tools out here you can look at. We do have here, this is where it redirects to at the very top. It's just off screen, but you type in CallDelToSell.com. Not like you're going to miss that. And it pulls up this website. Now you can look at office listings. You can see what we got going on. You can find my little squatches down here. Zap them with your cool little Camry. Get them with your Camry, and they'll put them in there. But we're going to come all the way over here to say, let's check out what Rutherford County is doing. Let's go look at Rockville. Let's see if it's very real, how it matters to us. Let me put you on the big screen so you can see it. All right. Now what we have going on here is let's see how our local markets are behaving. Well, these two on all of the pages are the days on market. These are average. These are median. I probably should put the name med up here, but average and median, you can see them down here. And days on market is falling. Days on market is falling. Right. Total showings are increasing. Can we see that? The total increasing, that's the middle block right there. It's going up. Showings are going up. We have interest in properties. We just need more properties. Look at the active inventory. Look how quickly it dropped around 2024. Now we've begun to come just up just a little bit, but from here, when is this? From about February of this year, it's only crept up just a tiny little bit. It's not like it's not a good time to sell your home, and with the price increases, as we just saw, hitting an all-time high in April, it's probably going to be a good time to buy, to get yours bought, so you can at least get the pain and the suffering over with. All right, so if we go back and look at some of these others, let's look at new listings. New listings are going down, and yet we're having just a little bit of inventory change. Look at the month supply. Month supply is decreasing a little bit. So that's saying it's pulling away from the growing trend to being a buyer's market to being a little bit more of a seller's market if it's going towards shorter inventory. That's what that means right there. At least that's what it means to me. It may mean something different to you. Well, let's check a different location. Let's try Murfreesboro in the entirety. Remember, you have free access to this. This is updated on a monthly basis. Comes right off of our system, the Middle Tennessee system, not benchmark system per se. And look what we're doing on pricing. Are you seeing anything that's indicating to you that the bottom is going to fall out of the pricing and you're going to get some bargain if you wait a little bit longer? I don't think so. They're still holding up. It looks like it's still a pretty safe bet over the last 4 years, like a pretty safe bet to buy property. You got to have a place to live. Days on market. Here we are with median days on market. Look at it. Pretty well much. Just a little bit of cyclic, not anything dramatic. We're not seeing the changes. This is the city itself. Look at the showing. Showings are very cyclic. It's a big area. The city has a lot of showings going on in it. Well, look at it. It's 6,000 showing in April. That's up 15%, 16% almost. What about active inventory? It's kind of holding straight. We're not really gaining a whole lot. We're not really losing a little bit. It's still waffling in there. So it looks pretty good. New listings, same way. Months of supply, that's tailing off a little bit, and that usually would indicate a little bit of a seller's edge than a buyer's edge. Well, let's try something else. Let's go to Bedford County, and let's look at Shovel. Now, if you're local, you realize Shovel is one word, one syllable, Shovel. All right. Shovel has, look, days on market, nothing really dramatic. We were up a little bit on the median, right? The most commonly occurring, whereas the average was a lot better. It was a lot better. A little bit longer at 100 days, but that's only going to be what? about 3 months, maybe a little over 3 months, right around that 3-month period. That's not bad. Sales price, yeah, they kind of came down just a little bit, but if you go from 24 to its peak there in 21, when did we say that we were seeing the big spike? Was about halfway through 21 was when we started to see the economy turn just a little bit according to leading economic indicators. Didn't really crash, did it? Price per square foot, still up. Still net up from over a period of time. You might get a little bit of noise in the short run, but it's not looking to me like it's the worst thing in the world for us to see is a little bit of market change. Now, in the early days when it was back before January of this year, everything was cut the rates. We got to get those rates down. But inflation was out of whack. And we still have the same committee, as far as I know. The FOMC is the same people. And they were saying, yeah, we don't really want to cut anything till we hit around 2%. Well, guess what we're doing? We're closer to 2% now. We are slowing just a little bit. We're not seeing actual recession indicators. We've heard people scream at the top of their lungs, I think more politically than fact-based, that the tariffs are just going to ruin everybody's lives and blah, blah, blah. These were the ones who were saying everything was fine and our fearless leader was in great shape. You know, it's like there's so much noise right now. You can see the graphs, what I just showed you. Doesn't look like the world is topsy-turvy. And it looks like we might actually, with our inflation coming down, which we want, the whole point of raising interest rate was to slow the economy. Well, it looks like it's finally beginning to slow down. One reason, whether it's the tariffs or it's the other policies, it looks like we may be able to, by macroeconomic data, be looking at some changes in the near future. But in the meantime, we're going to see some craziness as people spook other people into buying and selling. Remember when Tesla dropped and people were mad about that? Somebody scooped up a bunch of money right there off of somebody else's emotions. So do your best. We'll get our homework as best we can, and we'll find you a house. We'll sell your house. We can get them done. It might be a little bit more negotiating and back and forth now as we go from the total seller's market of just a few days on the market to a more reasonable time. But we're not past 6 months yet. We haven't flipped that script, and it's not likely that we're going to if we are indeed seeing the economy slow and inflation get down. It looks like we're going to be in pretty good shape to trade homes. So you know what you got to do? You got to call me. Let's do that. Hello, I'm Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's one L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. All right. Well, I just realized it says my Facebook page, it doesn't say Delbridge Benchmark Realty, so we'll have to fix that on the next recording. All right, let's get to these numbers. Last week was the 15th of May. We had 25,669 in the opportunities. That increased slightly over the previous week. We had 4704 were the under contracts and still showing. That ratio remained steady at 18% between those two numbers. This week, 5/22/25, we see 25,965 in the opportunities. That increased a little bit, and that went up as well in the under contract, still showing at 4834. This week, though, we see the ratio just barely tipped from 18 to 19, and that's only because we're doing whole integers. It was 18.65 or something like that, just barely on the plus side of middle, and we went to 19% there. So I think overall, if we can keep our filters on our ears so that we're neither blind or deaf, and we're not hypersensitive to the noise that we're subjected to, that we can we can come out of this okay. Looks pretty good. Looks like we're still a good, healthy market at about 4 months. And it looks like we're easing back towards the seller's market direction, because that's where that marginal change is. It was peaked, now it's coming back down. So it's not like the world is snapping off its axis. So we got to get to work. We'll see you next week.